Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the 817 podcast, the first episode of 2023. We hope that you enjoyed your holiday week, your holiday weekends, and are getting back into the swing of things. I know we are over here. EJ, how are you doing?
I don't think Fort Worth could start any better of a year with the Frogs upsetting the Michigan Wolverines. How was that for you? And just watching it, seeing that happen, pretty crazy. What two awesome games that we got for college football.
Yeah, it was wild.
Awesome.
I very early on realized that my body was going to be doing at least a low level of shaking for the entire game, regardless of what the score was. I mean, it's crazy, and we saw in the early 2010s how TCU football accelerated TCU's growth, which at the same time was accelerating a lot of Fort Worth's growth. A lot of that went hand in hand just in notoriety and the number of eyes that are on college football. And to see TCU just 180 the way that they have this year, I'm excited to see how that continues and how Fort Worth kind of continues to piggyback off of that too.
Yeah, it was really cool to see, them talk about both of the schools, show the population, show, this small private school. I think it was really nice to see that for Fort Worth. And I just think the Fort Worth, the TCU team is a good reflection of just the hustle of the city, kind of this underdog energy that the city has. And now we're going to be able to carry it into 2023. And when is the national title? Is it this upcoming weekend or do you get 2 weeks?
Next Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it's the 9th. I mean, that's the first 2 weeks of the year. TCU Fort Worth is going to be on national headlines in every sort of publication, not just ESPN, but, New York Times, every sort of major news publication is going to be circulating the city to start the year for at least 2 weeks, which is a really cool opportunity.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how the game goes. Man, it would be cool to finish off the Cinderella story and be insane. I mean, you already got us being the first Texas school to make it to the college playoffs. So there's just a lot of great energy around this that hopefully we'll see what happens. They've been running really well up until this point. Whatever happens, but really great to see.
Yeah, really, such a wild thing.
Well, what do you so this episode, we decided it's going to be much more chill, and we could just see that the holidays are still going on in the newspaper. Everything's kind of like the typical kind of story. Housing market down, recession's on the way, things that people are just talking about. Then they'll show some data and show the population increased, employment's going to go down, but not much. So it just seems like a lot of reflecting of the city rather than new information happening. So we have an excited episode of, we're going to do who were or what was Fort Worth 2022 losers and winners for the year. And then we're going to do some 2023 predictions. And so that is what we're going to have conversations about. Would love to hear yours after you hear ours throughout the episode and what you think would happen. But let's start with our losers of 2022. What do you have?
I'll start with my first one. And I am going to go with city council making big decisions as a loser. I would say the two biggest things that faced city council this year, took up the majority of their time, were redistricting and short-term rentals. We talked about those things so many times this year. It was in the news constantly. And honestly, the end of redistricting, the bag kind of got fumbled in a lot of ways. Like, you look at the maps now and you're like, how the hell did we come up with this? And
Yeah.
like, it's with anything, you know that there was rhyme or reason, you know that there was logic to get there, but you look at it and you're just like, why? Like, how is this what we ended up with? So I feel like the last mile decision making there was not great. And then with the second thing that's been more recent with short-term rentals, like with everything that went into it, just saying, yeah, we're just going to keep things the way it is right now. We're not really going to do anything about it. Again, was just kind of like, okay, like, what did we spend all of this time spinning our wheels for?
Yeah. Who knows? What is your take though on, like, does this impact the city council's next election? Like, how many are getting reelected next year? Because could it just been, a bunch of young people, bunch of new people in one room? And honestly, the more and more I hear about feedback about our pod, some people will be like, y'all think they get along? Yeah, like, I get it all the time. It's like, they actually are not that, like, kosher as they maybe portray in the media or on city council days. So would your prediction on this side be that they pick it up this year, or they continue this in 2023?
Yeah, I wish that we got to see more of that. I feel like recently we've gotten to see during meetings a little bit more of the disagreement, and I think that's healthy to be put forth in front of the city, and not just what the final decision is, or what the final vote is and where you landed. Like, because we are so often coming up with these like 8-1, 9-0 votes and whatever. But I do think it does have something to do with the fact that this was largely a group of people going through this process for the very first time. Like, I can't imagine if you put either of us into that position for the very first time, and you're like looking at an almost finalized city budget and expected to like read through it and make decisions on it, what that would be like. Like, you're a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, we will see, like, we'll talk more later about like the 2023 elections that we'll have for city council and for mayor, and have some predictions there. But it'll be interesting to see how many of them get elected again, mostly just because of like changing districts, really close races last time. Like, who knows how growth has affected dynamics there. Is the mayoral race going to be as contested this time? Probably not. So, like, are as many people going to even show up for the city council elections? And how does that sway things? So I do think it was a product of this being a lot of their first time through these major sorts of things. But yeah, I would also love to see the arguing more. I would love to see the debate. Like, why else are we having city council meetings if you're just going to do it all behind closed doors?
Yeah. My loss kind of goes with your loss. One of my losses, and I just look at it more of like where the person is today than where they were before 2022, and that would be Kerry Moon. I mean, obviously, he had political ambitions to do more in the Republican Party, and probably even was on the short list at one point of should I run for mayor of the city, and I just don't see how his ability to be relevant in Fort Worth politics anymore, especially with someone like you have Maddie, and then you have Tim O'Hare, who's also extremely young. And if I had to say a winner of 2022, it'd probably be Tim O'Hare and the Tim O'Hare messaging. Like, that seems to be working for the greater Tarrant County area. And so, yeah, that's kind of probably some of mine.
Do you think Kerry could try and slide in as the far right mayoral candidate and mess things up?
As much as we get on to Kerry and his lack of accountability around the things he did while in office, I don't know if he's really right. Like I really don't know if you had to pit a Maddie, Crane, Kerry, Lyon, and then O'Hare. Like, is he much more closer to Crane and Maddie, but then just like a pig and a kid, and a person with entitlement, but still relatively like conscious.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So I don't know that would be it. If anything, that to me would be, does Brian Bird want to jump back into the arena and get the Tim O'Hare endorsement?
Or Panate.
Yeah. I mean, but Panate was impressive. But man, that would just be an annoying thorn on Maddie's side. But yeah, it could. I mean, another loss, the Tarrant Democrat Party. I mean, we have to build the bench. This pitting Deborah in, it's like watching Chris Paul every year try to win an NBA final. Like, you got to find new people on the roster. And so, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I would call the Fort Worth Dems and Tarrant County Dems a loser of 2022 because one, they lost basically everything. And two, because you look at the future and you're like, yeah, like, who is going to run for any of these positions? Like, is there going to be a Tarrant Dem candidate for mayor this year? Like, I don't know. We have, a few people who have lost other elections that might slide in. But again, like, anybody we suggest is somebody who has a history of losing elections in Fort Worth, which doesn't bode well for someone like Maddie, who, if need be, will be very well funded, is very well liked, has a long history with the city.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of people who don't like Maddie.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, it's hers to run with for sure.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I really don't see a way forward for Fort Worth Dems right now.
The other big challenge is that I think if a Dem does ever win mayor of Fort Worth in the next, the 20s, so the rest of the next 7 years, it would have to be someone much more centered. Like, it has to be an old school Democrat style. Because I think there's a lot of fresh young talent, right? Like this, we talked about the Sean Lasseters. We have other people who I feel like have it. I mean, Jared Williams comes off very center and not scary, but I just also don't know if he's still very young and early. So I just don't know if a young Democrat could pull it off. Like, I don't know if necessarily, or if it's more of just like someone who is more centered Democrat can come in that's older, who has a lot of respect from Republicans. I don't know.
Yeah, even I agree with you there. I'll move to another one of my losers for 2022 for Fort Worth, and that'll be the Stockyards. And
that's a good one.
I say
with all the renovations and Drover and the upgrades and the opening of Mule Alley and
I mean, I say the Stockyards as a place where that feels like it belongs to Fort Worth. Like, the Stockyards continues to feel more and more like a place that is just designed for people visiting to go to. And if you're part of the city, like, it's, kind of hard to get to, a little bit buried back there.
Because I would argue Stockyards are the winner in the sense of, like, I've said Tim O'Hare was the winner.
Right,
in the sense of, like, their agenda they're achieving on their agenda and getting the financial backing to achieve their vision.
Right.
Loser,
Maybe the
Magnolia,
people of Fort Worth as a
but I would say the places that are, closing down. Four Sisters, 7th Street can't keep anything open.
I mean, I think those two things kind of go hand in hand. Like Loser being like small business culture in Fort Worth, like that's something that Fort Worth has prided itself on and acted like it is a champion of, like supporting small businesses, supporting local. Yet we, are just seeing restaurant after small business go under, not be able to support whatever whatever space they're in, and especially a lot of the ones that are, coming up on lease renewals. So that means that whatever developer owns their property now is jacking up their rate. So they're going to move out, try and move on to the next place that might be able to pick them up for cheaper, which means that whatever's moving in there is probably a little bit more corporate and a little bit less small business than what we're used to. And I think that does go hand in hand with the stockyards not necessarily being a place for locals. Is we're not putting, like, the local businesses we're putting in there are, third and fourth locations. Like they're essentially chains at this point. Or, Tim Love, is Tim Love like a local brand of Fort Worth anymore? Like, not really. Like, he feels very outside of what we know as like driving a lot of the culture in the city. And so like that's the stuff that's surviving, where a lot of our more niche businesses and restaurants are really struggling to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, we just, again, lost Four Sisters. That was on the December 23rd. That was another hit of a, top 10 restaurant in Fort Worth that people took people to. Something that I saw that I'm interested to see how this impacts this, making a prediction for, I guess, what happens next for stockyards in West 7th. This Dallas Morning News article said Dallas ranks as Texas' third most competitive rental market in 2022. Number 4, Fort Worth. So one, I was already interested in this story because they didn't put us together in a stat. I was like, wow, okay. So then more than 95% of apartments in Dallas were occupied this year, and nearly 63% of renters decided to renew their leases. On average, 14 potential renters expressed interest for the same vacant apartment unit, according to Rent Cafe found. So if you look at the Fort Worth numbers, it says average days vacant, 31 days, which is equal to Dallas. Occupancy rate is 94.7% to Dallas's 95.1. Prospective renters per unit, 13. And we have the same renewal rate. So
that's nuts when you think about just like how many apartment complexes are being built.
Yeah, that's what's so, because to me, driving by apartments or parking by apartments to go eat, to go to a bar, to go to a brewery, they just seem dead to me. They just seem like no one goes in, no one goes out.
Yeah.
They're just kind of there. But doing this math, that's not the case. And so how much of that impacts stockyards development compared to obviously a heavy, dense area like Montgomery Plaza, like this kind of apartment growth and competition?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what makes the way the stockyards are being developed a loser to me, is that they don't want anything to do with people living there. And when, we move that over to West 7th, to near South Side, like, I think West 7th, a big thing is getting businesses in there that actually like appeal to the people that live there, like, I just don't think that all of these kind of like trashier bars that fit the exact same culture, like, you are appealing to one type of person. And so, and your population there is so limited, and then because you are so geared towards this one type of person, you have become so abrasive to anybody who is not this one type of person that they don't even want to go near there. And so it's like, we know things can thrive in the area. Like Hatsuyuki is great and it's always slammed. So I think that it just has to find more of a curated identity to appeal to people living there versus what it is now. And I think that's what maybe makes, now that there is another option for living down there, whether that's, I mean, Museum Place will be finished soon and that'll have some apartments, but then everything behind Tom Thumb, like now that there's so much retail over there also, and you're a little bit closer to downtown with, you know, some protected bike lanes, and direct access to the Trinity Trail, like I would choose those apartments over the West 7th ones. And so I think West 7th kind of needs to, or Crockett Row needs to play catch up in a more wider appeal than what they have now.
Is it, if you had to pit, who is currently going through, so is Crockett Row and West 7th in more of a debacle than Sundance and downtown? Who is doing better right now and who will do better by the end of 2023?
I think Crockett Row, like one, they, you know, recently got sold, like they have, you know, somebody new managing that. Two, there's still no place to live by Sundance Square. Like, how have the taco diner, bird cafe places sat with nothing for this long? Like, I think there's just so much empty at Sundance Square and nobody wants to go into there. Like, you're not even attracting corporate chains to go into there at this point. Like, I just feel like they're in such a hole that it's going to be a long time before it is dug out of it and made like an appealing place. And part of that is building infrastructure for people to live down there also. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. You changed my mind because I was going to say the other way. And I was ultimately going to say that simply because of all the, I feel like the new niche hotel scene in downtown is super cool. I feel like Crockett Row has kind of had its same stick since we were in college.
Yeah.
But I think the demand for what they do is still greater than, like you said, getting anyone downtown to be there regularly, right? Thompson's is, you know, gone again, I believe. So it's just like a weird, the makeup of downtown, doesn't seem promising.
Yeah, and you see life being breathed onto West 7th with, you know, total remake of the traffic light situation, protected bike lanes. It is multimodal friendly, and, you know, close to direct access to the Trinity huge park. Like, there's kind of everything that you could want right there versus Sundance. You just look at it, you're like, this is dead and nothing is happening to change it.
Yeah. Which is crazy because they always do really well during the holidays. Like, this is like Sundance's thing. Yeah. It's like the Basses throw on an epic party. Everyone shows up. And then back to normal.
Yeah, and then it'll happen again when Main Street Arts Festival happens, and then, you know, go back to dead again.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move into the predictions, unless you have anyone else or scene that we want to. You could say a loss was crypto in 2022 in Fort Worth. A loss was the crypto world. That's down 70% or 60% like that since its peak before 2022. Fort Worth, the first city to mine Bitcoin, also has had to see it drop down significantly.
But you could also say it's a winner as a
100%.
marketing tool.
So then here's the prediction. All right, what's your prediction for where crypto is in Fort Worth at the end of 2023? We're doing this at the end. Where's crypto in Fort Worth strategy?
Nowhere.
I agree.
Yeah.
We will not talk about crypto a year from now.
Yeah, I'm sure that at some point it's going to be like, well, we gave this machine back. Maybe a company decided to move here. I don't know. I don't think crypto is a viable thing at all. So maybe they're not the type of company we want to be attracting here anyways. We got plenty of office space though. But yeah, I don't think it'll even be on the radar.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and dive into our predictions. I kind of told you we're going to do this, so maybe you have some time to put some in your bag to think about. I even try to think through a couple different spaces. I want to try predictions that I'm most likely are going to get wrong, but would be cool.
Yeah.
So what do you got for me?
I'll start with, we talked about city council already, and I'll say that at least 2 people currently sitting on city council will not get reelected, whether that's because they decide not to run or, because of districts changing, kind of putting them in a place where they are going to struggle to win. But I'll say that at least 2 of the current city council members will not get reelected in May 2023.
I like that one. I will add to that one by saying that District 11, the new district, will add another minority. Right? So, the reason why I say that, you got Riverside Alliance, Oakhurst, Rosemont, Meadowbrook. You got Crystal Galvin, possibly, Tara Wilson, other people running, Christopher Johnson, different people. You can see a run for that. That would be mine, that I would add to that. And might even go say, you know what? 11 will be a Latina or Latino who's running for office and wins District 11.
Yeah. And I think the other, 2 people we look at, like Gina Bivens and Carlos Flores, they've both been doing this a while. How much longer are you going to keep doing this?
Jared's race was close.
Yeah.
Do they try to add in a different person than Jungus, who's a little bit more relevant? Get a Tim O'Hare endorsement. Now's Jared going against a little fresher, more active Republican in his district.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I think Alan Blaylock's new district is 10, so that dynamic is going to change some.
Yeah.
So I think we could have a pretty big flip, pretty big turnover, especially looking at people like Carlos and Gina having just gone through a term with redistricting. I feel like this was a little bit more intense of at least the last 2 terms between COVID and then with everything that went on these last 2 years. Are they going to be yeah, I don't need to get paid $20,000 to do this anymore?
Yeah. The results in District 11, Hispanic voting age population is nearly 59%. So a big majority there that can really deliver. That doesn't mean it's going to be a progressive candidate. I'm just saying that,
Yeah, and then when you add black population into that too, you're probably looking at closer to 80% black and brown in that district. So, yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah. What about a Gina Bivens retires and endorses new young blood from District 5?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'll be interested to see if she does endorse somebody, or what the next step would look like for that. But I do think even, like a Nettles versus Kelly Allen Gray, like you had two people with,
Very close.
not totally different political standing running against each other. So does somebody come along with a very similar outlook to Kelly Allen Gray or to Gina Bivens, but is younger and is able to steal that seat?
Yeah. I mean, the other thought, too, though, is does Alan Blaylock actually win number 10? I would imagine that's going to be a very competitive in-house competition because 10 is up in Fort Worth, which is all the economic growth. What if those companies have someone they're backing that they really believe in and they buy in? He's now going against some, former VP or someone who's more in the economic space up there and has a better relationship with Mike Berry or whatever. I don't know. Whoever his endorsement on that seat's going to be big.
Yeah.
So I don't even know Allen's chances in 10 because he's so new. He's not I don't think a big name that people are going to,
right. He's not rooted in anything.
Where I think
yet.
Nettles wins 8 again is because, he's everywhere. You see him everywhere. You now know that he's a person. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah. What's a prediction you got?
I got one that's I'm gonna go with that's easy. I got 2 economic ones. The first economic one is that we will fill Walsh Ranch with a player. If I had to make a guess of what field, I am going to actually go into the semiconductor space. The reason why I say that, we just got Samsung. They're the second largest, really far away, but, they're the second largest of semiconductors, of the highest breed after Taiwan Semiconductors. Or it's going to be, the electrification piece still, someone who needs a big plant. But that's that. My other one in economics would be that we coin Fort Worth as the future of automating jobs that people don't want to do. I think what we saw with that McDonald's out in Fort Worth, that it was like a drive-through with no human people working on the line.
Yeah.
I think that can be, why was Fort Worth selected out of anywhere McDonald's could have done that? Mm-hmm. Why they just choose to do that in Fort Worth? Well, I bet it has to also deal with the same reason why Estonia is moving to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And there's going to be little bots rolling around. And another reason why Amazon's invested in packaging and drones, and there's a lot of drone policy being discussed. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like this next year is a big come out party for Fort Worth when it comes to that automation and doing jobs that they're either having a hard time finding humans to do, or feel like should be something that humans no longer do in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And I think obviously with the CHIPS bill and with the infrastructure bill, semiconductors or solar, we have a lot of space.
That's a good one too.
We have a lot of space and a lot of land out there, and there's going to be big investments and tax incentives for solar companies nationally. So I could see either of those or both being, what starts to fill up that space.
I have to look it up. I actually even saw a crazy stat. What's the name of the airport in Fort Worth?
Meacham. Yeah.
I could have swore I saw a crazy stat in the Dallas Morning News, or maybe it was the Business Journal, around how Meacham is the 5th busiest airport in Texas. Something crazy. It was crazy high after the main ones.
What?
Yeah, it's after the main ones. Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, Houston. Once you knock those out, it was I was like, dang, Meacham's really that high? I didn't know people actually go out of Meacham. I'll look it up.
That's crazy.
I'll look it up while you give me your next prediction.
My next prediction. Okay, so last week we posted the interview we had with Carlo Capua.
I got it. Texas's sixth busiest airport. Meacham International Airport, Fort Worth's oldest airport, has experienced significant growth and takeoff and landing over the last couple of decades. Key numbers. When staff members at Meacham's conducted a master plan update in 2004, the airport ranked 9th in Texas. Now Meacham ranks 6th with 208,000 annual operations, an increase of more than 63%.
That's insane.
Right? No idea.
Yeah.
So their Alliance, Texas is literally, they're building their own airport out there. It's becoming its own space.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just dropped December 8th. I remember putting it on my short list of like, what does that mean for like, does that mean that, are they doing more of, like, looking at it, ranging
Cargo.
from, cargo, but this is also showing me Meacham, along with city-owned airport, has seen a rise in demand for aircraft hangar storage. There's one. While 340 aircraft, ranging from single-engine piston to large business jets, call Meacham home. There are 109 people on a waiting list for hangar space at Meacham.
Wow.
So it's probably also where rich people fly.
Private, yeah.
Yeah. But this is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's starting to become a little bit more of a
maybe that's
trend,
maybe,
is like a semi-private.
Let's make that a prediction.
Yeah.
There will be a semi-private
airline
or software app service that will announce its opening at Meacham Airport in 2024, but they'll spring it to us in 2023.
All right.
Here we go.
There's a good one.
Hit it on the board. Yeah, what was yours?
Okay, yeah, mine, we were talking about talking to Carlo about the World Cup and about how we need to start preparing our infrastructure for that now. So my prediction for 2023 is that we are not going to make the necessary decisions to get ahead on everything. And one of them, it kind of sidewalks have been prompted to me a couple times recently. It's about a 1.2 mile walk from my house to Coffee Folk, and we do it fairly regularly. And I would estimate that 70% of the time we are not walking on a sidewalk because there's not a sidewalk available. And then I'd estimate another 15% of the time there's a sidewalk available, but it only lasts for like a 16th of a mile. Like we're talking like 4 or 5 houses, and then it ends. And then Fort Worth Report reposted one of their articles about sidewalks from earlier in the year this past week. And if we are truly going to be hosting hundreds of thousands of people, like, we got to get our sidewalk game going. Like, we got to make this a walkable city, a more walkable city. And that's preparation. We are so far behind on that's prep that has to start now. So that's something that I am going to predict, is that we are not going to do what we need to this year to make sure we are ahead of the ball game when it comes to preparing for the 2026 World Cup.
That seems about right. And I feel sad for anyone who has to come to Arlington to experience the World Cup.
Yeah, like, that sucks. Especially if the final truly does get hosted here. Like, it's not going to be a fun experience for the global traveler coming to see this.
Yeah. Another reason why this automation, like Fort Worth, like, I think when we think of Fort Worth in 2023, it's going to be this automation play, even because now I even go with the announcements of Aurora Innovation and Uber Freight. So I don't know if you've seen the announcement of the expansion of an autonomous pilot between Aura Innovation, which is a self-driving semi truck is partnering with Uber Freight to use a new 600-mile commercial lane between El Paso and Fort Worth over the busy holiday season. So they already started using it.
Okay.
So now I even see that's even another part of this whole like autonomous work, autonomous services. Fort Worth is really going to press up here.
Yeah. And I think so. One thing that I have noticed about Fort Worth is that I feel like that North Texas and DFW have been less like understanding and accommodating towards businesses when it comes to having trouble hiring workers, having, consistent schedules and everything. I just feel like we have a lot of Karens in the area. I wonder if that's even a play on that, is that places like McDonald's are looking at their array of stores and being like, why the hell are we getting so many complaints from this area? Like, let's try and automate. Even like I randomly was talking to someone who does works for corporate Restoration Hardware, which they have their space in Dallas. It's like beautiful store with a beautiful restaurant, rooftop city view. And he's like, yeah, like of all our stores, like the Dallas one is the one that we get the most complaints about customer service. And so I wonder if that might be a recurring thing where people are looking at this area and seeing it as an automation play, one for dealing with fewer customer complaints, and because they're like feeling the weight of staffing issues, and then also like centrally located to where in the like freight sector it makes sense to use somewhere like here too.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a cross collaboration between your wants of better sidewalks and Fort Worth business wanting robots on the streets. You know what? If you want them on the streets, they probably need a sidewalk to get on.
They need somewhere to go.
So you may not care about the Sweeney family, but you might care about your robots having a safe place to walk.
That's
when
right.
Dropping off services that people are paying for. So maybe you could build a win-win there for sidewalks, because it makes somebody money now. Well, I don't have any more predictions. Do you have anything crazy? Did we miss any predictions for Panther Island? Any predictions for what else do we have? Aggieland North. Do we have any predictions there? What do we got there? Maybe.
Yeah, Aggieland North and Panther Island. Okay, I'll call this manifesting instead of predicting. I will manifest that that a light rail station will be planned for Panther Island.
I like that.
That there will be, that the TRE and light Tex Rail will connect to Panther Island. Yeah. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, that'd be tight.
And we'll get that announcement this year.
Yeah. I like it. What else do we have? I'm trying to look at all the other subjects.
I'm trying to think of like near South Side. I predict that at least a couple more of your favorite restaurants and businesses are going to close this year.
I know. I'm like, my in-laws have been in town and I have not gone out to eat in like forever. So I was like, man, I got to go make sure these places are alive. Let me go eat there.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, there's a lot going on here. Let me see what else I have. Another, random prediction I have is, do I think Goff and Cuban and Jerry Jones, who are into the esports. Okay, there you go. Fort Worth gets an additional athletics team or esports team. Ooh, you like that one?
Yeah.
There you go.
Interesting. Well, because there you do like have kind of the baked in prediction of are they, gonna keep moving forward with soccer team in North Fort Worth. So like there's already the potential there, but
Yeah.
I like the way that could go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, beautiful people, if you have predictions, if you have ideas, feel free to share them. Hit us on Instagram, 817pod. Let us know if you got any ideas or if you got our numbers, because a lot of y'all do. Tell us how you feel. You got our email. You can do that. But we are really excited for Fort Worth 2023. We're already starting out with a good year with the Frogs going to the national championship. Are you going to go?
No.
Too old for that now.
Yeah.
And
no.
I
mean,
agree. Like the cost to do it is just
The cost is insane.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
one for tickets, two. I mean, airlines are really good at
not showing up.
not showing up, but also like maintaining schedules around sporting events. Where trying to get to LA, that like entire week before well, I guess that's like now, but trying to get to LA next weekend is very expensive. Even like I got like the alumni email today that was like, buy a package through us. It started at $2,500.
Wow.
And that's not with ticket to the game.
That's insane.
So no, I will not be going. And it's 20-hour drive, just a little bit too far.
Yeah. Well, I'm a horn frog throughout all of this. I've been rooting for it. It's been fun. Let's see what happens. Let's close it out.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. And
By the way, we will not be recording a pod this upcoming week due to work and being out of town, and we just believe with the short weekend there won't be a lot of news that we need to do an emergency pod to make sure something comes out this Monday. So you're going to see us 2 weeks from now, and hopefully the Frogs are national champions. Deuces.
Follow us, likes, double tap. Now they control your life, control your life. Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Follow